Hello, everyone. Ken Tumolo with Tumolo Financial. As I said before, I'm a certified financial planner that likes putting the pieces of the puzzle together. This month's topic, Tumolo Talk topic is when to start Social Security. And it actually has become one of the more, it shouldn't be complicated. You can just go take it and that's that. But when you start to look at planning over a long period of time, when you decide to start to draw Social Security, it can actually play a role in how your plan goes together over a long period of time. Sometimes it affects the tax piece of it. Sometimes it affects protecting a spouse or even protecting a loved one, a child that you want to get more money over to later on in life. So Social Security has become pretty much a hot topic, other than the other two top topics that I run into are taxes and then do I have enough for retirement? Social Security is right up there as one of the top three topics to discuss. So what I'll do is I'll touch on some of the items today. There's a lot more to it. Social Security I actually can do multiple videos on and talk about multiple scenarios, but we'll keep it simple for today. So let's get the presentation up. And we'll start off with just when to take your Social Security, some of the things that we have to just be aware of. For those of you out there, when can you start Social Security? Anywhere between the age of 62 and 70. So any time during that range. And one of the things is we already know it pays out to you differently each year. So a lot of that's driven by what they call your full retirement age. Full retirement age for all of us is anywhere from age 66 to 67. It's really based on your birth year. I'll keep it simple. For those of you that are born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. Before then, it's 66 years or 66 years and 2 months and so on. So it's a bunch of variations. And that was caused back by when they were raising the Social Security age up to age 67. It was more of a transition type of thing, saying, well, we can't really go and change it on everyone too quickly because there are some of you that were closer to retirement than others. So what they did was they kept the younger age for some of you and then slowly transitioned up to age 67 for everyone else. Where the full retirement age comes into the calculation is for every year that you take it earlier than your full retirement age, there's a 6% penalty. I know I call it a penalty. I should say a 6% reduction in what they'll send out to you. For every year that you take it after your full retirement age, there's an 8% increase. So you can earn more out of Social Security. Sounds like a great deal, that 8%. Now, if you only have Social Security, it is a great deal. What I like to get people thinking is really about their whole entire picture. Because if we only look at Social Security, it's always going to tell us to take it later because we'll get paid more. But the thing is if we're able to draw Social Security and let other areas grow, then sometimes taking Social Security earlier is better. And I've got a bunch of different ways to figure that out, and I can give you a bunch of different options. And really what I always tell people is we run these strategies, make some recommendations, and then I have you look at the different options. And a lot of times it's pretty clear which way is the better way, but then sometimes you have a decision, but at least you look at it. And if you feel that point of starting Social Security is actually giving you the most advantage and you feel good about it, then that's the way that you go. You're always looking for some type of advantage in your plan. One thing I also want to talk about and touch on real quick is, and it's up at the top, the deceased spouse rule is still in effect. Now, the reason why I say still in effect is because I recently had someone go down to Social Security and they told them that no, they can't do it. And the deceased spouse rule, so you know, is if your spouse were to pass away, you can actually start Social Security at 60. And then there are some rules there where you either start start your spouse's Social Security at 60, or you wait till 62 and you start yours, then you switch to your spouse's later on. There are different ways to draw if that's something that pertains to you. You just have to be careful because sometimes you'll go down to Social Security, run into someone, and they misunderstand you. and they get it wrong. I've had it happen more times than one. So that's why I always want to point it out. If that's you, then what we want to do is run some strategies. And then this way, before you go down to Social Security, you already know how you're going to do it. So when they say, oh, you can't do it, then you can say, well, no, I could. I've actually had to go as far once as actually proving it out to the person by going to the Social Security website, and they actually brought down info from the website to the person they were meeting with that told them they couldn't do something. And it's just, there's so many different rules out there that, yeah, I don't know everything about Social Security. I can understand why the person working at Social Security, sometimes they miss a rule, but then there's different names for things. So if you call it one thing, they're going to think you're talking about one thing when you're really talking about something totally different. So it's just something to be careful of. One thing I want to point out with Social Security is taxes. It's a piece that's typically missed in a calculation. Social Security isn't taxed the same way as you take money out of your other accounts. In fact, they call it provisional income. It's a formula. Sometimes taking Social Security early actually gives you a big advantage. Depending on your lifestyle, sometimes you can start Social Security early. Delay taking money out of those accounts that you saved in, so you're preserving those accounts and they're staying up here and they're not being drawn down. But based on the taxes, you might be paying almost nothing in taxes by taking Social Security earlier and not as much from accounts. So there's strategies that help drive, well, I should say help give you an advantage. And a lot of that can be driven by when you take your Social Security. It can make your money last longer, or it can just give you a huge tax advantage by doing one thing over another. So I always like to point out, do an evaluation, look at the whole picture, make sure you're not missing something. There's a lot to Social Security. They've made it a little bit easier. Back a couple of years back, took away a few strategies, but it's numbers. Numbers move. So different things coming to the calculation. Another thing I want to point out, sometimes taking it early versus late is driven by protecting a loved one, and this could go either way. So sometimes based on what was saved, taking Social Security early preserves accounts so that if one of you, if you're married, one of you passes away early, your spouse has more in the accounts and they're stuck with one Social Security at that point, so it's enough for them to get by. There's also a strategy, depending on how you save, that actual call for delaying one Social Security so more pays out later on down the road in case one of you were to pass away. Okay. For a single person, sometimes it's about getting more to a child or to a charity. And depending on numbers, sometimes starting Social Security early is better because you're preserving accounts. So things drive. Your life drives how to take Social Security along with the numbers. Okay, health and longevity in the family. If you're in good health and there's longevity in your family, sometimes you'll delay starting Social Security because you'll receive more over a longer period of time. Sometimes you take it earlier because there's not quite, health isn't that good, or there's just not longevity in the family. Now, one more thing I'll add here is there's a Social Security spousal benefit. So if you're married and one of you receives a lot higher Social Security payout, because let's say, I don't know, a spouse, husband and wife, maybe one of you stayed home to watch the kids because you had kids, and you really didn't work much, so you don't have much in Social Security, but your spouse has a lot more Social Security coming in than you do. Sometimes what happens based on the numbers, you'll actually end up with a little bit of a raise to get you to at least 50% of the higher earner Social Security. So you get a little raise on your Social Security, and that can play into the planning too. And sometimes it's a surprise. Not everyone knows that actually is a strategy out there. Some other quick additional information, and I told you this is a topic that I could talk hours on, but I'm trying to make this quick and just touch on some things to be aware of. Sometimes you use Social Security as an inflation tool, where a married couple will start Social Security on one of them, wait a year or two or three, and start the second one just to hedge against inflation, because that second Social Security will pay out a little bit more. So when you're building a plan, you take these things into account. So yeah, now I'm making Social Security complicated. I'm using it as an inflation tool, but there really is a lot to it. One thing to note, your Social Security will be penalized if you collect before full retirement age and you make too much. There's certain levels where it kicks in where you'll receive for every $2 you make over that threshold, you'll lose $1 in Social Security. So there are these little things to be aware of, and actually the rule changes if it's your retirement year too, because it's a 3-to-1 ratio instead of a 2-to-1 ratio. But those are things to be aware of. They make it, some of this stuff is complicated because you have to always go back and look it up. And if you're not someone that normally deals with this, think about it. You deal with Social Security, set it up once in your life. You make that decision. When do I start it? You're not an expert. I'm not even gonna call myself an expert, and I know a lot about Social Security, but it's just, there's just so much. One other strategy out there I'll bring up: start, stop, start. A lot of people don't know about this strategy either, but let's say you started your Social Security at 62. You can stop it at full retirement age because you want to let it grow at 8% per year, your payout, and then you start it again at age 70. So you're actually being paid out more from Social Security. There's a number of reasons to do this. There might be you're delaying a pension, you retired early and needed income coming in and didn't want to touch certain accounts until that certain point because let's say that account would pay out more to you later in life. So it gives you another strategy to try to gain an advantage for you. Okay. So we're always, like I said, we always try to find an advantage in the planning, but the way to do it is to plan out over a long period of time. Then you look and say, okay, well, what's available to you? Where can we actually gain an advantage to give you a little bit of an edge? All right. Last thing I'll touch on. Some of you might have questions. Feel free to call us. We're not going to charge you to answer questions. It's complimentary. So if you just have a question on anything retirement, give us a call and ask us. I can also run what I call the Tumolo Financial Retirement Checkup for you. It's our way of kind of getting on paper, looking at it over a long period of time and starting to answer the questions of when should you start Social Security? What does it do to your taxes? What does it do to your whole plan? Another thing, there's going to be additional Tumolo talks. And then one area where I'll ask you to help me, if there's a topic that you would like me to talk about in a Tumolo talk, just email it to me. My email address is ktumolo@tumolofinancial.com. Just email me the topic. I'll add it to the list of things to talk about in Tumolo Talk. And you might not be the only one that has that wants to know more about that topic. It might be more popular topic than you think it is. Thank you. See you next month.